Welcome to This Love in Action, where Kevin and I talk about all of the real things that exist behind a really healthy and sound marriage. All of the difficult moments, all of the incredibly amazing moments. And we do it all on camera so that way, hopefully, you can navigate some of those real moments in your own lives. So, one of the marriage hacks that I feel like we've developed over time has been our walks together.
Yeah.
Kevin and I take daily walk multiple times per day. We walk the dog
hmm
and we just talk about stuff. And oftentimes, like, we have a gratitude practice that we'll do with each other. And we also use it as an opportunity to, like,
Level set, talk about real things. It's sort of a go-to for all things. When things are feeling like tip top and things are great, it's like such an energizing, fun, what's next? How is everything feeling? Everything feels amazing. We get to celebrate
mm,
those experiences. And then when things feel off, one of us can nudge it along. Things don't feel great.
mm,
Like what's going on? Where did it come from?
mm-hmm.
And it's hard to think about where our relationship would be without these
They've
walks.
been super foundational for so many
From
years
when
now.
even the very, very beginning, we used
I
to walk around
remember
Redwood City.
at some point, I had read some sort of article about how, like, when you walk with people, like something about having a shared common goal and being able to move your body as you're talking things aloud helps to set you up to be on the ride together.
Mm,
And just like, working with the energy of a conversation. So if it gets pretty tense, you're not just like sitting in place hoping that you don't end up like so overstimulated and frazzled. Um, and for us, it's just been, yeah, just a foundational part of our relationship together. And so during today's walk, I was telling Kevin that I had woken up this morning after having kind of a difficult night's sleep. And one of the chapters I'm in right now is on really recognizing how loud the negative self talk can be when I don't feel like every little thing is in alignment with my values. And, I'll wake up at like 3 in the morning and my mind will just keep going. And I also want to acknowledge that severe rumination can be a part of ADHD symptoms,
mm,
which I do have a little neurospices. But yeah, I just, and being at the point of my growth journey that I'm at, it's no longer a situation where I don't see it. It's like it's almost like the volume has been turned up because I'm now at the point where my ego is losing the war between my ego and my soul, my higher purpose.
yeah.
And I can now embrace those parts of me that hold on
hmm
to the familiar, and yet they just get so unbelievably loud. So that was keeping me up last night, was just like navigating um, a challenging conversation and just thinking through how I was going to do it. And then I woke up this morning in kind of this like funk. And it's like because the voice gets pretty loud, um, like when I'm really in that funk like I was this morning, which doesn't happen all the time. Like I think this morning was kind of a rare moment combined with like the stress of a travel, like a trip I'm about to go on a couple hours. Like there's a lot of pieces that have
hmm
stacked. Um, but yeah, just like waking up this morning kind of in a funk and like knowing that I'm in a funk. And so, I was kind of in that zone, and you had come downstairs after one of your meetings and we were kind of chatting and exchanging pleasantries, I would say. But, we're usually pretty sweet with each other.
hmm
Um, I feel like our morning interactions in particular, like they're usually pretty excited if we haven't seen each other before we both start our day. And I was clearly just in my own head.
hmm
And I know you could feel it too. And I was not about to like just self betray by like not feeling what I was feeling. Like I knew I needed to just like go through it. And in hindsight, I could have just told you that, but I wasn't quite there yet. And so anyway, you came downstairs. there wasn't really much addressed, and then you went back upstairs to your
Mhm.
meeting.
Well, you shared some of what you went through over the
Mhm.
night, and you brought me along for like some of the thoughts that you were ruminating on and how it was challenging. So I had some context on
Mm.
what you were feeling, what you went through the night before, how you didn't get a lot of sleep, and how that,
Yeah.
it played into what you were feeling.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And then, yeah, so a couple hours pass and we come downstairs. And like at this point, I have, done my inner work. I've had discussions with my inner child. I've done a little bit of meditating. I went to the gym. I ran a couple errands. I had a coaching call with one of my clients. And so I was just feeling in a pretty different state. And so, yeah, so you and I went for a walk and we had a conversation about how we handled the morning. And I
Mm.
shared a little bit more about what I had been going through.
Rewinding back to the part in the morning where you were sharing some of what was going on, I felt myself start to get a little bit like nervous because I could see that you were in a funk and I wasn't sure what that was going to mean. And I could feel this pull of like wanting to sit down and talk about it with you and like wanting to help. But I could also feel like my anxiety was fluttering in that sense. And I had a super busy day. So I ultimately was like, hey, I've got to run to a meeting. And you were like, okay. And
Mhm.
then I went up, and then it was like 4 or 5 hours later before we really got to actually see each other for any meaningful moment. Um, and then so we go on this walk. And one of the things that I think was interesting was, yes, definitely recognizing you felt in a much different place, and it was cool to see, the different things that you had done throughout the day that were good for you. And it was a great reminder of how my anxiety so many times in our relationship has been like, "Oh, you're feeling some type of way. It's not about you and me." Like there wasn't an issue between you and me, but it would turn into an issue between you and me
Mm,
because I would try and like help and you could just feel my like needy, nervous energy sort of trying to latch on or be there. And then I'm looking for a little bit of validation. And I know you would just like feel this repulsion of just, I can't deal with it. And then we would start arguing and fighting, and we never actually got to work through what you were going through.
mhm.
And so it was interesting to have a little buffer of like, hey, I've got meetings coming up. I went and did my thing, was working, and then we came back, you feeling in a much different place. And such a great reminder that like sometimes the best thing is just to spend a little time by ourselves doing our own thing rather than trying to jump in and help or support or try and fix what's going on for your partner or for you.
One of the things that you're talking about here is like, so I'm feeling something and I have big feelings, or like you can feel that the energy's off.
Hmm.
And then you come in and then you have feelings about my feelings and the desire to help. I mean, like, it's so interesting because when we really look at it, like, because we have that people pleasing tendency, like people pleasing is actually less about them and more about our needs to stay safe. Like if you can tame my emotions, then you feel better.
Hmm.
And that would, I would read that in a heartbeat. Like, especially when I would be feeling something really hard and you would come in and I would feel your energy kind of like size me up and figure out how you needed to be in order to try to help me and make me feel better so you could feel better. And it just like it just read as inauthentic,
Hmm.
and it read as though you had used my grief, pain, whatever it was, as like an excuse to get validation. And again, it was never your intention. And I
Hmm.
also I have done this in our relationship as well. But um I feel like the main difference that, and like the our biggest point of evolution as a couple, I think just overall, has been this clear prioritization of our own needs and really seeing our external reality. And even like, when you come downstairs and you see me and then you start to get a little frazzled, it's less about like, how do I help her? And more about like, what do I need to feel safe
Hmm.
personally? And I feel like every situation kind of gives us that opportunity to tune back into ourselves and be like, okay, what is it that this situation is telling me about my needs? Like we may call them triggers, but really it's like, what is this life activation? What is this thing that's happening in my situation telling me about a part of me that's looking for something?
Yes. I feel like triggers can be an invitation
Mm-hmm.
where for this experience in particular, it's like in between one of my meetings, I sat for a little bit and I recognized that I had a underlying belief, and it came from just like growing up of like if other people were feeling off or moody or something like that, even if it had nothing to do with me, um, sooner or later that energy would be directed at me
Mm,
and like the anger, and it would turn into frustration and anger at me. And so that I would become the problem. So it was this sort of bracing feeling of like, oh, hold on. I feel like you're feeling some type of way.
mm,
If I can tiptoe this perfectly, whatever you're feeling won't get pointed at me.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that way, if I manage you and you feel better, I have now dodged what could be a catastrophe. And so I went and sat with that and had my own moment with that, which was like, oh, and I was feeling significantly better.
Mm-hmm.
And then even on the walk, you brought up something that was a little challenging too. And I had a lot of capacity to be able to hear you because I'm not still dealing with that same worry or wound because I worked through some of it. So you brought something up, we had a little conversation. It was like, oh, great. Okay. And it just became a much better experience because of that. And you also went off and did all of the things that you needed to do for yourself. One person can absolutely make an impact on a dynamic,
Mm,
but it takes two people to sustain it.
yeah. Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. What you said in terms of like that pattern that you were afraid to play out in our relationship, I hear that, I see that, and also I have a similar wound. Um, but I think the wound that got activated in this play out of our pattern was that my feelings never never felt like there was enough space for my feelings. Like, everyone in my nuclear household had really big feelings. And where I learned my place was in being agreeable or being so perfect or like similar to you, managing other people's providing like comic relief
Hmm.
or entertaining or distracting or whatever. And it just never really felt like there was space for me to have my feelings. And I am a big feeler, and over the years I've come to see that as one of my strengths, like my intuition, like how I can feel into a room. But when you're young and you have big feelings and there's no room for them, it's like, like if I'm crying about something or if I'm feeling worried about something and having a parent be like, well, I'm sad too, or kind of competing in some sort of way with my emotions, it was just hard to know what to do with that. Because if me confessing my sadness is leading to a parent feeling their sadness in a bigger way, then in my child brain, that means, well, like, then stop feeling so big. Start moving toward the things that actually help people to feel better, that help you to be more accepted. And so I went down this like super long path of like overachievement and just trying to give a win to other people just so that way they would feel proud of me. And again, it all came from that deeper wound of just feeling like who I was and what I was going through that like was too big for the container I was in. And so I feel like it's been such a big reclamation of our self love to like sit back and honor what we really need. For you to decide to go to your meetings, of course, but you left a couple minutes before your meetings intentionally.
I did.
But, that's
Hmm.
okay. I think in the future, like an ideal way for us both to deal with it would be like for me, if I see you come downstairs and just to let you know, hey, I'm moving through something, but it's not the time for us to talk about it. Or like I'm moving through something and I need more time to process it through.
Hmm.
And then ideally for me, it would be great if you were just like, hey, I know we haven't addressed this. I want to make sure I show up in the best way I can when we do. I need to tend to myself first. Because I
Yeah.
feel like that conversation, like, I mean, it's like we're taking what is already so good and we're like kicking it up a notch. Because,
Yeah, but I see how those little tweaks too, because it's like why I left the conversation was this morning. You shared some of the things. It got a little awkward
mm.
in the room. I felt myself like pacing back and forth in the kitchen to like try and find something to do. Henchman turning wrench.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have a meeting coming up in like 20 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go prepare for
You
that
didn't say
meeting.
20 minutes. You're like, I have a meeting coming up. I
I
have to
know. I
go.
deliberately didn't tell you that
Yeah, that's
much.
okay. I mean, like, again,
But I came out to you and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go prepare for my meeting. And then I left. So there was like a micro communication, but it's very different to what you're pointing out where I know you've shared this so much of like the delivery matters,
hmm
where it's like if you can just say, hey, this hasn't been addressed. We'll get to it. I'm going to do my thing. It lets you know, like, I'm aware of the situation.
hmm
There's a reason I'm going over and doing this. It's ultimately so I can show up better, giving you some space, but it's not in a way of just like, let me just
right.
slide out of the room.
And for me, like, especially with the wound I just highlighted, it's like it helps me to feel received in my big feeling, not like you are squished out of the room necessarily. Um,
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
like, hey, I want to acknowledge that this is here and this is still you and it's okay for you to be this. But I have some things I need to do so
Mm-hmm.
that way I can like hold all of what you're working with. Cause like, you
Mm,
know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. I totally see that. Yeah.
and I mean, also like, I feel like to not come down and need to solve whatever problem it is that I'm working on. It's as much as sometimes it's hard to not go at the problem as it's in real time. I feel like there's work that we need to do on our own sometimes before we can come back together. There's just breath I need to take outside of this relationship. Like what I'm starting to learn as I get older is getting outside and doing something outside of the containers of this household is so good for me to just jazz up the energy and the energetic space that I'm carrying,
Mm-hmm.
and going to the gym and moving my body and being intentional with that and just seeing how I talk to myself while I'm at the gym and letting myself step into a different mental state without feeling like I have to be forced to get there. Cause it's just the worst to be feeling something and then have somebody come in and like be so uncomfortable with their own emotions that they can't hold space for yours. And that's,
Just feels icky. Yeah,
yeah,
and you're like, God, I just want to like it wasn't even about you.
yeah.
And somehow you've made it about
And
you.
it's such a well-meaning thing to do. Like, so, like, it's still a habit that I check myself on
Yeah.
sometimes.
This
Cause
happened this morning.
yeah, I mean,
Like I was speaking for me personally. It was like, yeah, it's still going on sometimes. Like it happened this morning.
it's so hard. Cause it's like you see someone in pain,
Mm-hmm.
and so much of our societal programming is like, oh, I could take your pain away. And it's like, how about no? What if we just embrace the idea that pain is information and that there is new information that's flooding through your body that maybe you haven't figured out how to sit with? And what if I just sit with you instead? And
Mm-hmm.
what if I ask some questions and I stay curious and I hold you, or I ask you how I can show up for you? And we don't make it about solving anything. We just make it about like, how do I how do I share my nervous system to make this the safest possible place as
Yeah.
you're going through something uncomfortable?
Yeah. Be present with whatever's there.
Mm.
And I think the presence is what helps actually ultimately dissolve something. But again, it's not the point to dissolve it. It's just to see it,
hmm
whatever it is.
Well, if you don't allow yourself to feel it, you'll never actually pass through. And I think that that's where a lot of people get stuck is that they have this big emotion that they're afraid to feel, or this big feeling, or this big thought or belief that they're afraid to actually articulate and let out. And in pulling the thread, you start to get more clarity on what's going on for you. And it may take you deeper into the emotion you're trying to avoid,
Mm-hmm.
but in going deeper, you have a chance to actually like really explore it, stay curious with it, be compassionate with it, And then in a couple of minutes, the intensity will lift. But you'll never get to that feeling if you always shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes this like massive boulder that you're trying to hide in your pocket, acting like it doesn't weigh you down.
And I think it's also an interesting exercise too, because there's an element of if you don't even know what your problem is,
Mm.
what you're going through, you just know it doesn't feel good, and then your partner's doing something that irritates you. It's a lot of expectation to put on your partner. So much expectation. Whereas like if you were just to take that moment and sit with yourself and figure out you can actually move through this thing on your own. You can figure out what it is. You can sit with yourself and come out the other side and then share that journey with your partner. That's beautiful. And your partner can do the same thing.
Mm.
Um, but I feel like from my end too, there was a lot of not knowing what I was feeling angst, and then wanting you to help me solve it, but without communicating to you that that's what I wanted or giving you any sort of insight that that's what I was looking for. So it was just this angst, and then I would get frustrated with you not showing up in a way that I had in my head that never shared with you. And it was a losing battle from the start.